Warning: this video contains graphic content. Discretion is advised. Top 10 most horrific murders committed by children. Number 1. Carl Newton Mahan, age 6. It's crazy to imagine a 6-year-old capable of killing someone, but Carl and his friend Cecil Van Hoos on May 18, 1929 were collecting scrap metal to sell for some extra cash. Cecil stole Carl's scrap from him and started hitting him in the face with it. That wasn't the end of things. Carl wanted revenge, so he ran home and grabbed his father's shotgun. He ran all the way back to Cecil and told him, "I'm going to shoot you," before shooting Cecil. At the time, Carl was the youngest person to be tried for murder. People couldn't agree on whether a 6-year-old is capable of murder. During the trial, Carl was often seen sleeping on the defence table, like many kids would during a long day, and didn't seem to really care that he was on trial. The jury decided to convict the little boy with the lesser charge of manslaughter, sending him away to reform school for 15 years. But a judge later issued a right of prohibition that kept the boy from being sent away, because it was against procedure to put a child of his age on trial in front of a jury. Carl was sent home. Number 2. Cindy Collier and Shirley Wolfe, 15 and 14 years old. Who would think that these two teenage girls in California in 1983 would be the cause of such an atrocity? Whilst many young girls write a diary, very few write about how much fun it would be to kill someone, as Shirley Wolfe did in hers. Because of commonalities and shared experiences like violent home lives, as well as being molested at the hands of their parents and relatives, the girls hit it off right away. Both girls carried so much anger within them, it caused them to do the unthinkable. The same afternoon that the girls met, they went around knocking on random doors of a wardenated residence for the elderly, asking to use the phone or for a glass of water. It alarmed many of the elderly residents, and several locked their doors and windows. However, one woman, Anna Brackett, aged 85, let the two girls in and chatted with them for nearly an hour. Shirley is quoted as saying, "We decided we were going to kill you." When Mrs. Brackett was distracted by a phone call, Shirley grabbed her by the throat and knocked her to the floor. Cindy threw her a butcher's knife from the kitchen, and Shirley stabbed her over and over again, 28 times, as the woman begged her to stop. Cindy then turned to her friend and said, "She's dying," as she lay there bleeding to death. Shirley merely responded by saying, "Good." Chillingly, 14-year-old Shirley Wolfe wrote in a diary after the attack, "Today, Cindy and I ran away and killed an old lady. It was lots of fun." Number 3. Michael Hernandez, 14 years old. Michael Hernandez appeared to be a normal young boy, but something darker lurked inside the teenager's mind. He managed to convince a friend of his, Jamie Rodrigo, to follow him into a bathroom at their school. He said he wanted to show him something, but instead, once inside the cubicle, Michael stabbed his friend several times and then slit his throat. Another student entered the bathroom after the killing and saw Michael washing his hands. He notified a security guard. When they came back, Michael was sat in class, despite the bloodstains all over his clothing. When police looked into his life, they had seen how obsessed he was with violence. He had a diary where he'd outlined his plans to commit murder, and in his notebook they found a list of 3 people he was planning to kill at his own birthday. Along with Jamie, Michael had also planned to kill his older sister and another long-time friend. His plan had been to kill his 2 friends and prop their corpses up on toilets. He even made notes for himself in the journal, reminding himself to be quick, to remove all the blood and to make sure they were really dead. Number 4. Joshua Phillips, 14 years old. Joshua Phillips decided to kill an innocent 8-year-old girl. His target was his unsuspecting neighbour, whom he'd violently beaten to death with a bat before stabbing her 11 times. Joshua then hid the little girl's body underneath his waterbed. He claimed that he had accidentally hit her, then panicked and stabbed her while she screamed. This was quickly thrown out by the jury, who sentenced him to first-degree murder. The little girl's body was only found a week after Joshua's mother noticed a smell coming from his bedroom. His mother moved the bedding, revealing the corpse of the poor young girl. Number 5. Jon Venables, 10 years old. When he was 10 years old in 1993, Jon Venables and his friend, also 10, talked a 2-year-old into following them to a shop. They led the child through their town, occasionally assaulting him, and eventually led him to a railroad track where they hit, kicked, beat, sexually assaulted and threw bricks at the child until he was dead. They then weighed the baby down with rubble to hide the body, and eventually a train ran over the dead boy. Venables and his friend were imprisoned until they were 18 in 2001, and then in 2010. Venables was charged with child pornography and returned to prison. Number 6. Amarjeet Sada, 8 years old. In 2007, 8-year-old Amarjeet Sada led friends and family to the site where he buried a 6-month-old baby after he killed her with a heavy stone. This led to an investigation of 2 or more deaths at the hands of the youth. Sada's 8-month-old sister and 9-month-old cousin had unfortunately suffered the same fate. He went on to strangle his sister and beat the cousin in the head until dead. The family covered up these 2 deaths. As law in India does not allow a child to be sentenced to death or sent to prison, Sada has now been detained at a children's home until he is 18. Number 7. Jordan Brown, 11 years old. Jordan Brown fatally shot his father's pregnant girlfriend Kenzie Hook in 2009. She was shot in the back of the head while she was laying in bed, and she was discovered by her 4-year-old daughter, alerted, whom ran to the tree cutters nearby and said that her mother could be dead. Jordan had already gone to school that day, acting as if nothing had happened. Kenzie, the victim, had experienced problems with Jordan in the past, and a relative said that he had spoken about killing her before it actually happened, but she never thought he would actually do it. The weapon used was a youth model shotgun that he had been given as a birthday present. Brown was charged as an adult as required by Pennsylvania law, but his lawyers appealed to the state superior court to reconsider his adult status. The case was ultimately moved to juvenile court. Number 8. Mary Bell, 11 years old. It really doesn't get more sadistic than Mary Bell, born in 1957. Mary Bell and her friend Norma Bell were found to have murdered and mutilated 2 young boys in 1968. The first victim, named Martin Brown, a 4-year-old whom had been found dead in an abandoned house. There was no obvious cause of death, so it was assumed by coroners Brown's death had been an accident. However, weeks later, notes started showing up that said things like, "Fuck off, we murder, watch out," and "We did murder Martin Brown, fuck off you bastards." A few days after the murder, Mary even showed up at the Brown residence asking to see Martin. When his mother told her he was dead, she said, "Oh, I know he's dead, I wanted to see him in his coffin." 2 months later, another boy, 3-year-old Brian Howe, disappeared, and Mary and Norma offered to help Brian's sister find the little boy. The 2 girls led her to a building site and said that he might be there. Brian's sister didn't think he was and left. Later, police found the body on the building site, and Mary and Norma were hoping to watch the sister's response to finding her brother's body. The boy had been strangled, and his legs, stomach and genitals had been mutilated. The letter M had also been carved into his stomach, though it looks to have originally been a letter N, possibly for Norma, that was changed to an M by a second hand. After a trial where she showed no emotion and bantered with prosecution, sentenced to life. As a teen, she escaped from prison and was on the run for a short time. Mary Bell is now a grandmother and has no other crimes on her record. Number 9. Edmund Kemper, 15 years old. When Edmund was only 15, he shot and killed his grandparents. Although he was sent to hospital for treatment for his psychotic tendencies and paranoia, he was released 5 years later due to his young age. This was the authorities' big mistake. Upon his release, Edmund went on and cut up the bodies of 8 more women, varying in his kill methods between stabbing, shooting and smothering, which is how he evaded capture for so long. Edmund was a necrophile as well as a murderer. He would even engage in sex acts with the severed heads and bloodied corpses of his victims. Number 10. Jesse Pomeroy, 14 years old. Jesse Pomeroy, at the age of 11 years old, between 1871 and 1872, trapped and severely beat 7 young boys. He stripped his victims and tied them up, then began beating them with the aim of covering their entire bodies with bruises. However, he eventually grew bored of simply beating them and later turned to attacking them with a knife, slashing and poking his victims. He was arrested for these crimes at the age of 12. He was then convicted and sentenced to reform school, where he was supposed to be held up until the age of 21. However, he was let go just after 2 years for good behaviour, convincing the officials he was better. But Jesse was far from being finished with his onslaught. Free to do as he pleased, Jesse was no longer content with merely torturing his victims. He took his crimes to the next level. In 1874, he savagely attacked and killed 2 children. 10-year-old Mary Curran had been completely mutilated and beaten, and 4-year-old Horace Mullen had been slashed so savagely that he was nearly decapitated. When police found Jesse, he was carrying the blood-stained knife. When they asked him if he killed the boy, Jesse responded coldly, "I suppose I did." As if that's not bad enough, Pomeroy went on to confess to killing 27 others. The remains of 12 additional victims were found at the home where he grew up, making him one of the youngest serial killers of all time. Thanks for watching everyone. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe for future videos, and please feel free to leave a comment down below for topics you would like me to cover. Bye!